All right, moving on to another topic with the Montreal Canadiens, not on ice related, but off ice. Their GM, Marc Bergevin. Contract negotiations have halted. Uh, this is what the word on the street has been since the beginning of the season. He has still been making moves, but a new rumor has started to spread, and that Marc Bergevin may be headed elsewhere. You might love him, you might hate him, you might kind of like him, you might kind of not like him. But we're going to talk about this and maybe a potential replacement if this is a situation. First, let's get your thoughts on Marc Bergevin's potential departure from the Montreal Canadiens. I don't know who wants to start, but I'm looking at Justin. You look like you've got a little bit of electricity in your eyes to talk about this. So go ahead.
I'm ready. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, I want Marc Bergevin to stay. I think he's done a lot of good for the Habs in recent times. I think most of his moves are better than they are. They're good moves and they turn out well. Yeah, I mean, I like Marc Bergevin as a GM, and I think he should stay with the Habs. So I'm all for re-signing him. And I honestly couldn't care less how much he's paid because that affects the team in exactly no ways. So, yeah, it's just about Jeff Molson and him coming to an agreement if he wants to stay. If he doesn't want to stay, then he can go elsewhere. But I'd like for him to stay for sure.
Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm good either way. Like Justin said, he's had mostly good moves, but I think it might be nice to see a change, get a new, fresh direction for this team after this year. Obviously, depends how the season goes, but yeah, I'm kind of indifferent either way. On a personal level, I feel like the guy probably deserves to go to a market that has less pressure and just enjoy himself for his last years. Uh, that sounds kind of bad. Not that he's like sick or anything, but just that for the end of his career, if he can go somewhere more relaxed, less media pressure, especially as a French local guy. I can't imagine the amount of pressure he's under. The stress every morning must be ridiculous. So if he wants to go, let him go. Let him enjoy the rest of his career.
Yeah, well, I think we all are in agreement in this panel that there. I know that a lot of people, especially one of our listeners, I think he's still listening, Loser McPoozer, who commented on our defensive takes or whatever it was, the video that we were talking about the Atlantic Division and how the defense is going to get eaten alive. But the whole point being here is that I think that Marc Bergevin has gotten better as a GM over time, and you have seen him learn from certain maybe mistakes that he's done. And of course, when you're a hindsight Andy, everything can seem like you could have done better. But that's after years and years of reflection and no split second decisions. Well, I say split second, but decisions that need to be made quickly and within a time frame, and you don't have results and just basing yourself off projections. So, the part where I would say that I am worried about Marc Bergevin leaving, I agree with everything that's been said, is that, and it leads into the second topic, which is who's going to replace him, and there's an added element here, and we're going to say it, and I understand need from a certain perspective, but it also limits our options. Is the fact that we need a French speaking GM. Now, one of those options could have been Julien Brisebois from the Tampa Bay Lightning, which is fine. If you want to make that move, that's not going to happen though. So we're left here with a Marc Bergevin that's been doing some good moves, albeit there's still some work to be done for this team, of course. But we've got a solid prospect foundation, some would say, and a relatively competitive team that just made it to the Stanley Cup Finals last season. Okay, so that's my question here: is that there's rumors going around right now that Marc Bergevin may be leaving to LA to work with Luc Robitaille and join Philippe Danault in LA. Okay, so who are you replacing him with? Is it Patrick Roy? Who else is it? And if it is Patrick Roy, what do you think of this? Go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of skeptical about Patrick Roy coming in. I mean, I just don't know enough about him as a kind of manager, as a general manager type guy. We've seen him obviously as a player, as a goalie, as a coach in the queue. So I mean, all I really know about him as a coach is that he's like a loose cannon, and he seemed to be the same way as a player. So I'm not sure. I'm not too convinced about his qualities as a GM. I could be wrong. I just don't know enough about him. Um, but the thing about having a French speaking GM is it's tough with like someone who has a lot of experience because there's just not that many. Like you talked about Julien Brisebois, he's obviously a great choice, but he's taken. Another guy I saw talked about, which could be like a diamond in the rough, is Mathieu Darche, who's also in the Tampa Bay organization. I think he's the director of hockey ops there. So I've seen some rumblings about him. Could be a decent, like he could be an option, but I mean, these are all kind of options that don't necessarily have a lot of experience, so they're gonna go through that kind of those growing pains as a GM that we've seen with like the new GMs like John Chayka with Phoenix, or sorry, with Arizona, like the Toronto GM. Please help me.
Kyle Dubas.
Thank you, Kyle Dubas. But we've seen with these new GMs, so I think it's going to be kind of if we change GMs, it's going to be a kind of awkward couple of years. We're going to get kind of like these maybe not great relationships with other teams yet. But yeah, it's to be seen. I'm sure whoever is there is gonna do their job a certain way, but I just hope it's not another Pierre Gauthier fiasco.
Oh boy, yeah, agreed. Alex, your take on this and the replacement for Marc Bergevin.
Yeah, I think Justin touched on possible replacements. You could throw out any name. I think fans are getting into this like way too deep belief that a change in GM is going to change it. How many teams win the Stanley Cup? Like it's 1 out of 32 now with Seattle in the league. It's not a simple thing to win the Stanley Cup. You're not going to change within 5 years. Oh, Bergevin was awful. This new GM, we're going to win a cup. Like in the past 20 years, Tampa's won three, I think. New Jersey won two, Detroit won three, Pittsburgh three. Like it's a lot of these teams that were repeat winners, and 20, 22 other teams have not won a Stanley Cup in 20 to 50 years. It's not like there's so much luck involved. There's so much other factors that I don't think it'll change much. And like Justin mentioned, guys like Shaika and Dubas, when John Shaika started in Arizona, everyone was saying like this guy's making insane moves. Arizona's going to be insane this year. Then they came 28th. Then it's like, oh, Arizona, crazy draft. Next year they're going to be insane, 26th. Then it's like, oh, okay, this is the year their prospects are panning out. Oh, 29th again. So I think fans have no idea what they're talking about when they're coming up with takes about a change of GM is going to change everything, change the future of this team. There's guys like Lula Moriello who won in the 70s and hasn't seen the Stanley Cup since. Guys like Chiarelli, people say is awful. I think he won a cup. So I don't know. I don't think us as fans who can't see behind the what we're talking about, I'd be interested to see how it goes with the new GM, but I don't think it'll have a gigantic impact on this team winning a Stanley Cup.
Well, I don't know about that. I think that there's definitely some GMs that can really change the course and direction of where your team is headed. Like if you were gonna talk about like Pierre Gauthier and stuff like that in comparison to a Marc Bergevin or a Peter Chiarelli, that I think we can all agree the Taylor Hall for Adam Larson, which was questionable at the time and became even more disastrous as time went on. Like there's I don't agree with that, to be honest. Like there is a certain standard that you need to uphold for your team to get better. And that's where I'm worried, is that if you don't take somebody that's good, and I don't necessarily want to get into this topic, maybe we should, because it's an interesting take since we're from Montreal and we can give our perspective. But the whole element of language, and being able to speak French and address our fan base, well, at least a portion of it, which is francophone, of course, and the heritage of this city, Montreal. Like, we're an English podcast, but we speak French, all of us. So there is that perspective that I can understand from a francophone and being able to address your fandom. And then there's the other side of the coin, which also tells me that, well, that shouldn't be a criteria for selection, and and it will be. I know it will be, and I'm okay with that to a certain extent. That I also see the other side being a limitation for this group. So that's where I don't know what replacement. If it's Patrick Roy, to be honest, man, I don't see a guy that necessarily is gonna solve anything apart from being an amazing, legendary goaltender that he was for this franchise at a time. So I don't know what you guys think. If there's anything else that you want to add, if not, we can maybe leave it off and leave it to the folks back at home to leave their comments on this.
Yeah, I mean, just about the language thing, I mean, I don't want to get political here, but I don't think it should necessarily be a criteria, like you said, for offering someone a job as a GM. I mean, I think the communications that the team make should be in both languages. You should have reporters that can ask questions in French and get answers in French as well. But I don't think anything is stopping us from having some sort of spokesperson for the GM. Like if we had maybe a GM and then a president or something, and one of them's English, one of them's French, and one can kind of answer the questions, or basically just a translator or someone who can convey what the English speaking GM wants to say in the French language. I think that could be an option, but obviously I don't think that's ever going to happen because it's too political in Quebec. But yeah, it's obviously taking off probably 85 to 90% of the GM candidates out there, just making it only French speaking GM. So you're putting the team at a disadvantage, and nobody wants that, even if you speak French or English in Quebec. So yeah, I don't know. It's a hot debate though. Then it has been for the last 110 years.
Continue. It definitely will continue to be. So, Alex, any thoughts on that, or do we wrap this up and see where Bergevin is headed?
No, I think we can leave it at that. Everyone's got their opinion.
All right, great. Well, folks, you let us know what you guys think about this Marc Bergevin situation. One last note, and I want to shout out Marc Olivier Bouin, which followed up with a little bit of news on this topic, saying that apparently there has been a lucrative offer that has been deposited. I don't know if that's the word I wanted to say, déposé in French there, but basically, Marc Bergevin has received a lucrative offer, and he is reflecting on it. So the door is still open. There's this rumor from I want to say the person's name, Larry Brooks from the New York Post, that mentioned this LA rumor. So there's both of these options that are going on. So we shall see, and we will see who Marc Bergevin, or sorry, who the Montreal Canadiens GM will be, and if it will be Marc Bergevin by the end of the year. But that's it. We'll be back to wrap up the show for today.